Hey everybody, it's Stephanie Ward of fireflycoaching.com, and I'm here with Tayo Rockson of TayoRockson.com of Use Your Difference. And he's going to share his top marketing tips with us today. So Tayo, tell us, what is one of your top marketing tips?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor. But what the first thing I always tell people, content creators especially, since I'm a content creator, is to go where your audience is. So before I launched the podcast, as told by Nomads, I was a member of all these niche groups on Facebook or on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and I knew I wanted to reach TCK's third culture kids initially. So I embedded myself there, and I started writing a lot of content based on my experiences as a third culture kid. So I put that out there. And then, I was there for consistently maybe 4 weeks before I eventually launched my podcast. So I was like, the audience is familiar with who I am, and me launching a podcast here is not going to be like a sleazy salesman, because obviously they've become familiar with my story and some of the tips that I've been sharing myself. So go where your audience is. That's always the first ways that you can leverage that. And then the second tip has to go with the first tip, which is get familiar with some of the keywords that your industry uses. And these are tips that you can do with no budget. Now, I touched on it earlier, saying I wanted to reach TCKs, and I was wondering, how am I going to find my first guests? And I used Twitter. I leveraged the power of Twitter by using the hashtag TCK, hashtag third culture kids. I had searched for that on the search bar and essentially created a list of everyone that came up or identified with that in their bio.
Wow. Let me jump in there really quick. Yeah, no, I think that's amazing, because third culture kids, some people that are watching this may not be familiar with that term, but for people that are, they know it. So it's quite well known. So using a hashtag was really smart. So it sounds like, just to back up, you've used blog posts, you've got your own podcast, you're using Twitter to connect to people, you're using hashtags. So these are all super tips. So keep going.
No, you're right. And since it was such a niche word, anyone that identified with that obviously knew what the term was. And I felt like if they were good enough to put it in their bio, it's something that was really personal to them. So I saw that, and I was like, I would follow them, and if anyone of them followed me back, I would just say, hey, I'm launching a podcast based on the TCK experience. I really would love to share your story, something like that. And for some reason, I got like essentially an 80% rate.
Wow.
Yeah, almost that. And a lot of people were saying yes, and that's because once you're marketing, the best thing you have to realize is people want their story to be heard, or they want to identify with a story. So when I pitched to them and said, hey, this is something that's not out there, I wanted to show how we can embrace our global identity and use it to our advantages. That resonated with them. So go to where your audience is. That's one. Find stuff that resonates with them and really speak to them and not at them. So if you're speaking to them, which is what I was trying to do, is, hey, this is your story. I'm going to give you a chance to share it. Not many people know about it. Talk about the importances and the advantages that you've had being that person that identifies with several cultures. And then and the other thing is, so it's in podcasting, blog posting, and then using social media platforms, but also leveraging your experience as a speaker, as an expert. We were talking earlier before the show. Once you start to create a bunch of content, you become, unexpectedly enough of an expert that you can speak on it. So with my experience, what's happened is that people have been asking me for podcast services. And the thing that I'm saying is, go where your audience is, find out what they want, but also listen to them. So I have conversations with listeners all the time, and they tell me kind of their needs and what they're looking for. And a lot of them have been asking me, well, how do I create a podcast that shares my story? How do I, work on ways to connect across cultures? And those are the two things that people have been asking me. So how do I go from introvert to extrovert? How do I learn how to share my story across different cultures and still feel like myself? And so once I listened to that, I started to create, little hangouts or little meetups online that they could come share. And once I did that, it became a referral based thing. And once that happened, people would say, hey, this would be a great guest for you. You should talk to this person. You should talk to Tayo. You should talk to Tayo. And it's all centered on listening, going to where your audience is, and repeating that cycle. So those are the 3 tips I have.
I love that. I love that what you said about listening. You know, this is one of those things. It is so basic, and people are like, "Well, how is that a tip?" But it's something that so many business owners fail to do. And if you simply listen, have, like you said, have conversations with people, listen to what they're saying, listen to what they're asking for, that's how you can figure out what it is that you can create that they will love. So I'd love it that you're listening.
That's true. It's as basic as it comes, but it's the absolute truth. You know, everybody wants to be heard. I think that's the difference with good marketers and great marketers. A lot of times marketers assume what people want. I've certainly made mistakes like that, and I learned from my personal experience because one time I launched a course that I thought everybody wanted to have, and then I got 0 sales, and I knew exactly what I did after 2 months of cracking my brain. I just basically assumed that that's what the audience wanted. I didn't ask any questions. So
I love that you're sharing that personal story because
yeah.
It's a process, and we're always learning, and you just have to experiment, and that's a key learning moment there. That it's to create something thinking that's what your audience wants. That can just be heartbreaking.
I'm definitely very transparent. No, I've had way more failures than successes. So it's if I could pass that on to anyone, I would love that. But that's the point. You fail forward. So yeah.
I love that. And you also mentioned speaking. So in addition to social media and blogging and your podcast, you're also out there speaking live in person. And I will just give a shout out to the FIGT, familiesandglobaltransition.org, that Taya was a speaker there last year. So it sounds like you're very focused on what works, and that you're using your energies, to really stay clear about building this platform. So people that want to check out what you're up to can go to TayaRockson.com. I'll put the link down below this video. And if you want to get in touch with Tayo, you can find him on Twitter. And I guess your podcast is on your blog too, right?
Yeah, podcast on the blog, but podcast is called As Told by Nomads. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere that's a podcast carrier directory. I share a lot of stories on uydmedia.com. My personal website is TayaRockson.com.
Okay.
And I host a couple podcasts. And Taya Rockson everywhere. I'm the only one in the world, so just reach out to me wherever.
Awesome. Now I'm going to throw you a curveball and ask you what you ask all your guests at the end of your podcast is, how do you use your difference to make a difference?
Well, I use my difference to make a difference. Thank you for asking me. That's the mission statement. I use my difference to make a difference by being brave enough to share stories that no one talks about. So when I first started the podcast, the idea was, there are not a lot of platforms that actually resonate with people that identify with several cultures. And my mission ultimately in life is to help build the next set of global leaders. I believe that we can do that by helping people communicate across cultures and thinking outside the box. So by using my platforms to bring people from different parts of the world to talk about better ways to be businessmen and apply global concepts, better ways to be entrepreneurs, better ways to be culturally aware, I feel like I'm essentially using my difference to make a difference. My difference is I'm a TCK, and I'm using that to be a diplomat and an educator of sorts.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you for sharing.
That's the first time I've actually answered that question correctly. I always love doing that to guests, and I'm like, I actually just answered that.
It was a good answer. Cool. Well, you guys, listen, thank you for the tips, Tayo, and everyone out there, think about which of these tips you can use for your own business. Listening, speaking, paying attention, and going to where your people are. So thank you very much for being a guest, and wish you all the best.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, remember, use your difference to make a difference.
Very much so.